Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Code to Cloud. I'm joined today by the one and only Lin Sun. Lin, thanks for coming on the show. Do you just want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've been in the software industry for over 20 years. And right now, I'm the head of open source at a small company called Solo.io. I'm also a CNCF ambassador and a CNCF TOC member. I've been a maintainer for a couple of projects, so really excited to be part of the open source ecosystem.
Wow, that was quite an intro, Lin. That's what kind? Just before we circle back to the beginning of your career, what have you been a maintainer of?
Three CNCF projects. The first project is Istio. I've been working on that project for a long time, for 7, 8 years now. So that's a CNCF graduated project. For folks who don't know what Istio is, I assume most of you already know. In the cloud native ecosystem, it provides a programmable framework as a service mesh. And we recently introduced service mesh without sidecar. So really interesting and innovating service mesh. I would say probably the most adapted the service mesh in production today. So that's the first project I've been maintaining. I serve as the technical oversight committee member and also a steering committee member on Istio. The other two projects I become maintainer is one is KGateway, which is a CNCF sandbox project that implements gateway API, and it innovates on AI gateway capability, and it's also implements the latest inference gateway spec. The third one is also a CNCF sandbox project. It's KAgent. It has a mission to bring agentic AI to cloud native. Where we provide open source agentic AI framework building on Microsoft AutoGen at the moment to allow user to use conversation style to interact with the projects within CNCF. And some of the projects we implemented as agents are Kubernetes, Istio, Cilium, and Prometheus. So some of the signature projects already are part of the K-agent ecosystem.
It's quite a lineup right there, Lin. Some heavyweight projects right there, right? Some beloved projects as well, right there. That's really good to hear. That's pretty amazing. You're a big contributor, right, to the CNCF ecosystem. It's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I find myself surprised the other day, right before KubeCon Europe. I log into like the contribution stats for all the companies for CNCF projects. I think Microsoft is pretty high. I can't remember the list. Red Hat was number one.
Oh
I
yeah.
believe Microsoft is definitely one of the top 10. And I also see my employer solo as one of the top 10. I was like, oh, I must contribute a good portion of that too, right? Because we are a small company, not as big as Microsoft or AWS, but it's exciting to see us on that list of top 10 contributing company for all the projects in CNCF combined.
No, and that's the great thing about open source, right? Is you've got these big companies that provide like the scaffolding, as I like to call it, but then you get some absolute golden innovation, right? From individuals or smaller organizations that really contribute to the ecosystem. So what do you do over there at Solo? Is it solo.io? Am I saying that right? What is it you guys
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, Solo.io, we build enterprise solutions on top of our open source projects. So the projects I was describing, we build a service mesh enterprise product on top of Istio. That's our Glue enterprise. Glue Mesh Enterprise. We also build a API gateway on top of KGateway. That is our Glue gateway product. With K-Agent, we've got tremendous excitement on the K-Agent open source project. So we're looking at also building something enterprise regarding K-Agent. And
Awesome.
my role, I think you specifically asked my role. I primarily lead our open source team and oversight our open source contribution. So I try to figure out the strategy of our open source uh, and work with the leadership team on what to open source, what's not to open source. Because at the end of the day, we want the right balance between open source contribution and also be able to profit as a company or grow our revenue as a company too. So I try to help as much as I can, not only in the open source community, but also on the company side to help our company grow as well.
It's a fine line, right? I've had a couple of guests on the show that have been in a similar position, right? It's where does the open source start and where does the commercial stuff, begin or end, right? And it's difficult, right, when you're trying to fight the good fight on both sides, right, at the
Yeah.
table, because you obviously need to be profitable, right, to keep people employed and make sure that the organization's viable, right, but at the same time trying to meet those open source commitments as well, right? So
Yeah, it is a very, very hard line, and I can only make recommendations, right? So at the end of the day, my boss, she make the final decision because sometimes the decisions are business related, right? It's harder to override unless there is strong pushback in the community. Thankfully, I think as an organization, we're pretty flexible. We adapt as we learn, which is important in this economy. And also for me personally, I do think I can't just be all in on the open source and not realizing what our business are building on. I remember when I first joined Solo, that was about 4+ years ago, 4.5 years ago now. I was like, well, I'm happy working in open source Istio. Let me just work on all things related to Istio, whether it's in the community or giving talks around Istio or writing books or writing workshop around Istio. And then I gradually realized, well, I don't even know where the company is headed if I don't understand our product offering. I don't understand our product strategy. So, I find it's actually good now that I understand both sides of open source and where the company is headed. That gives me a clear perspective as I participate in the open source and also ask me insightful questions when we define our product strategy, such as how do we actually differentiate and how do we actually bring open source user to our enterprise offering.
no, it's I've seen different companies try to tackle it. Some have been successful, some have maybe could have made better choices, right?
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not an easy
it's
problem for
it,
sure.
it's not easy. I always what I have seen success in, and this is my humble opinion, if it's closed source at the beginning and then you make it open source, you normally get like a big thumbs up from the community. But if it's open source and then you try to close source it, that's when you start to run into problems, right? That's
Yeah, that's
that's
a huge
that's the
problem.
issue, right? Yeah,
Yeah, especially as a CNCF TOC member, we've seen that with some of the project I'm not going to name,
yeah,
that's when a war could be set up with lots of lawyers, lots of attentions when you try to close it out. Yeah.
that's awesome. So I just want to circle back to the beginning of your career. You said you've been in software engineering, is that right? Or software development for 20 years. That's quite an achievement. Like where did it all start for Lin? When did you get the tech bug?
Yeah, I would say I would be in tech for probably say I started my career in 2021, if we're not counting like internships. So I started my career, I'm sorry, did I say 2021? I
Yeah.
started my career
It's
in
gone a lot in 4 years.
2001.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
In 2001 with IBM. So that was back then. I was doing development in the PC company, trying to work on like automation related to preload environment when you bootstrap your personal computer. So that was the start of my IBM career. And then I moved to the IBM software group. But for the past 10 years, I've been focusing on cloud native related technologies. At IBM, I was building IBM Container Service, which was initially was based on OpenStack. And then we decided to move on Kubernetes when everybody was adopting Kubernetes. And then we decided that IBM was a co-founder of Istio. So we started to contribute to Istio project. And luckily, I was jumping on the Istio contribution bandwagon. And then right in the middle of COVID, my boss, who is the founder of Solo, reached out to me and asked me if I'd be open for new opportunities. So I decided to, I've never worked at a startup company. That was at the year I was about to reach 20-year anniversary with IBM. And for folks who know IBM, when you reach your 20 years, they're giving you like 5 extra days of vacation, which is super attractive, right? And it's a big company, with a lot of stableness you can imagine. But I decided, I actually wanted to kind of try something new. I know how big company works. I haven't really changed my career for a very long time. So I decided, to try with the small company, Solo.io. And I thought, the company was interesting. It was working on similar technologies I already have a good understanding, which is Istio and Envoy proxy. And I was always very impressed with the leaders in the company because we work on agentic field, adjacent field, and I know they like to talk a lot about what they build at KubeCon, at Istio Community Day, at before conference events. So I had a relative good understanding of the employer Solo.io, and then I decided to jump into join it and the team at Solo.io. I mean, it's been interesting. What I like about working in a small company, though, is I've got exposed to data and information I never thought I would be exposing, right? In the big company, you're not allowed to talk to media, right? Because you're not media trained, most of us. And you have to be very cautious on what to write about, what to submit conference about. The travel needs approval. Almost everything needs approval, right? As long as you do stuff in the open, even contributing to open source projects, as simple as submitting a PR or even install something on your machine, you may need an approval. But in small company, what's interesting is you get access to a lot more data. Like you can see how is our revenue is composed, which deal is making what money. That data, I normally only have a generic data when I was in a big company. And then what's more interesting is I could potentially be pulled into product strategy conversation at a small company where those things never happen at IBM. When you're just an engineer, you were told what to execute on most of the time. So that was super, super interesting. Along with that, there's a lot of flexibility working with a small company. I feel like at the end of the day, small company might be more, have more resources and money for innovation because the small company is more focused on growth. Well, as a big company, we're trying to entertain our existing customer, make sure they are happy, right? So we spend a huge chunk of money and resources working on those and much less on innovation. So that's the other thing I kind of really like working in a small company. Now that I've worked here for more than 4 years now. Yeah.
So
So
would you
that's kind of my transition. Yeah. I feel like I'm super, super lucky to be working in open source in my past 10 plus years. That's really amazing. Sorry. I know you were trying to say
No,
something.
no, no. I'm gonna just let you keep rolling. Yeah, it is an achievement. Getting paid to do open source.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah, it
get that
really.
happen
No, it's
very often. Exactly. And at the end of the day, you have to make sure your employer are happy with you and continue willing to fund you or your team's work, right? Yeah.
so would you say you get to wear different hats at a startup? compared to working for, I mean, IBM is used as an architect blueprint, right, of a big organization because it's been around for so long, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, would you say you get to wear multiple hats and learn different things at a startup?
Yeah, definitely. I think in IBM, we call this a matrix environment
That's
where
right.
each employee, right, it's a matrix. You do really well on what you were told to do and what your just job responsibility is. And sometimes if you try to go beyond that, there's potential politics involved too at the small company because the company is so small, right? You can get your opinion heard much easier. And also, it's easy for me to see both side of the employer and the employee side. Sometimes I actually think a little bit about myself as an employer sometimes, right? What if I'm an employer? What would I think in this situation, which I've never thought about that in a big company as at IBM. So in a small company, you got more exposure to everybody. Everybody feels more like a family. In a sense, like in our company, it's fully remote, so we try to do offsite twice a year. Like this year, we went to all in Mexico. Playa del Carmen had the entire company were invited to had a week time together where we educated each other on the strategy of the company, what are the key initiative, what is the roadmap, priority for the year, and also break down our side conversations. So that was super helpful. And I don't know about Microsoft, but at IBM, it's almost impossible to bring even just your division, everybody in your division together because people are remote these days, right? So that face-to-face time is it's just so special.
No, no, I worked for a smaller company before I work now, and they used to send me gifts in the mail, right?
Yeah,
At like holiday season time, right? And stuff like
that's
that.
great.
And we used to do bingo, or we would
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
sorts of games, right? They trying to energize the team because it was during COVID as well, right? So
Yeah,
you couldn't travel anywhere, and it was a really weird transition because I'd gone from working at companies that there's open plan offices, right? There's loads of memes on the internet about them, right? I went from an office full of 70 people to then working in my home office by myself and being like isolated pretty much. It was difficult, right, for me.
yeah, understood, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have the same thing. Like my birthday was in July and just happened. And during my birthday, on that day, I said to my family, well, this might be the only gift I received, which was from Solo. But thankfully, my family member did remember my birthday and was able to give me a bunch of gifts. But sometimes, it's just your employer remembers your anniversary and your birthday because it's in the system.
Even if it just comes up as a pop-up, right? 2 weeks before, they can get something in the mail, right? So,
Right, or sometimes they give you a gift card for you
oh
to
yeah,
redeem on certain website, which is amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I used to love getting those Starbucks gift cards in the mail.
Right,
I'll
yeah.
be honest, something small, right? But it means a lot, right? So,
Yeah, it means, your employer remembers you, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So no, but there's we're not bashing large organizations because I feel like I've learned. I don't know about you, but your time at IBM, you probably learned a lot, right? Working in a big organization like that, right? It's more like the scale, right, of the way they do things. I
Yeah.
mean, what did you learn from IBM? What would you say were the top three things that you learned from IBM?
Um, I would say, gosh, you mean from my personal learning perspective?
Yeah, just I mean, I've learned a lot being in a big organization. I see the world in a different way now, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say the first thing and the best thing I learned at IBM was I work hard in general, but I had a mentor at IBM. She kind of, so I approached her one day. I said, look, I work very hard. I'm not sure how to get to the next level. And then she started to talk to me like, well, it's great you work hard, but if you just throw your weekend and nights time to work hard and not building up on your skills and not learning new things, you're not setting yourself for success for the next promotion because you're just doing mandate tasks that everybody else can potentially do, right? So that was really eye-opening to me in a sense, like regardless how much defect I can process or comment or resolve or triage, if I'm doing the repetitive thing, I mean, it's not exactly repetitive, but if I'm not really growing my career, right? So that's a bummer, and I have to constantly remind myself, is that the right way I want to spend my time? So that was really, really helpful. And the second thing I would say, building connections, is super, super important. At IBM, I think we have a saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
That's a
Especially,
worldly saying, actually. Like, I
yeah.
got told that when I was younger, and it makes so much sense, right?
Yeah, so building connection, keeping it up once in a while, and it's just amazing. The third thing, which is a kind of my hobby at IBM, is I haven't introduced to you, is I actually have over 200 patent application under my name, owned by IBM. While I was a IBM employee, so that was like super super fun time at IBM. We allow people to do like a side hustle thing sponsored by the employer, where you could reach out to other IBMers to have like a patent idea brainstorming sessions, and then go through the patent application process by submitting your disclosure, patent disclosure, and reviewed by invention development team, and the development team would vote on your disclosure to say if it's makes sense to move to the next step, which is having prior search. And if it passed the prior search to be unique and novel, they would hire a attorney to write your patent application for you. So that was such a fun time, and I made a lot of money out of it too, because they reward their inventors really well, because the inventors give like the rights, the rights of the patent application to be owned by the employer. So that was such a good time I had at IBM around innovation and inventing.
That's how many patents did you say? 240?
I don't
Did that
remember the exact number, but I know it's over 200. So I stopped counting because there's just too many of them. And on top of that, I think I published like many, many articles. It's like in the range of hundreds on IP.com, which is when your patent idea didn't get through the process of prior search, or they decided it was to publish at this website.
I've got to ask, what was your favorite patent that you did? Can you remember?
Yeah, there was a lot of them. I can remember the first one I had. It was actually a simple idea, really, really simple. I remember when I was having my first kid, which is 2005. And at that time, we were using instant messenger, like text, but it's a different naming, right? That's before everybody even have their iPhones and mobile devices, right? So IBM, I think, acquired Lotus, and there was a software called Same Time. So you can think about it as a Slack, like a very, very early version of Slack. So we were using it internally at IBM to communicate with our coworkers. And I was communicating with a female, a lady friend of mine. And she just telling me, oh my gosh, I had such an embarrassing moment. I mentioned your baby is so cute to one of my male coworkers, after she sees me sending her a baby picture of my baby, right? So our first idea was using contextual analysis of your conversation history to generate a alert warning. I don't think it's been done yet to this day, right? But it's super, super helpful to avoid some of the embarrassing and even confidential data, right? In
Oh,
that
yeah.
case, it was just, hey, your baby is so cute. And their male coworker probably thinks she was crazy enough. but in some case, it could be leaking some of the confidential information. So the idea was just analyze the conversation pattern and the history. And when you always sending a new message, and kind of the tool can pre-screen the message and give you a warning if it doesn't matches your previous conversation context. So yeah, it's a pretty fun thing. Now you can see we were having fun, right? Because these things are not necessarily related to what our job is at IBM, but we can have a conversation and laugh about it.
I wish I'd have had those kind of tools in my career sometimes because there's some messages you never wanted to send, right? Or you sent by mistake, or it read the wrong way, or whatever, right? So that sounds really interesting. So Lim, so before you started at IBM, when did you get into tech? Did you go to college or university, or was it just something that you picked up as a hobby?
Yeah, so I actually going through a not a straight path. So I went to college in China regarding architecture, and I wanted to do computer science, but my family was very against it. They thought computer science is too hard for girls, and they thought it's going to make my mind grow up. And they saw great opportunity and job opportunities for people who build development buildings or residential buildings or condos and townhomes in China with the biggest development going on. So I actually went to college for architecture, but right after I graduated, I still didn't feel that's the right career I wanted to be. And I come to the States in 1999, and I was applying for graduate school at UNC Chapel Hill. And I saw this major called Information Science Technology. Well, it's not hardcore computer science, but it also teach you a lot of technology concepts, such as some basic programming and how to run your web pages, how to do information searches. So I decided to apply, and I got into that program. And I remember my first job at the university was actually writing Python code as a research intern, and that got me waived the tuition for that semester. So super, super thankful for that. So that's how my tech career started with the information science technology master degree at UNC Chapel Hill, which allows me to apply for jobs at IBM. I actually did a couple of interns with IBM and Cisco locally before I graduate and apply for full-time position at IBM.
That's awesome. I always love a transition story, right? Because I've met some real interesting folks who started off doing something else and then ended up in tech, right? So it's not all linear, right? It's not just a straight line, right?
Yeah,
You can be doing anything, right? At the end of the day.
yeah, I feel very thankful actually of the decision. I don't think there is a better industry than tech when I look back. I mean, I'm not jealous of doctors or surgeons at all. So I think tech is actually where I wanted to be, especially with open source that gives me the opportunity to collaborate with everybody all around the world and also give me opportunity to visit all around the world for different conferences. There's no better job than tech.
I mean, you travel a lot, right? Because even when we were
Oh,
trying to get this together, you're like, I'm on a plane, right? So where have you traveled to in the world? Has it been all four corners, or is it just mostly North America? Where's your favorite place that you've enjoyed going to?
yeah, so I've been traveling certainly mostly to North America and also Europe. But most recently, I went to Hong Kong and also Japan. That's because KubeCon Hong Kong and KubeCon China was just week sequentially week by week. So I decided to make a trip. When you go to Asia, it's harder to go just for 1 week. So when I saw the 2 weeks were together, and I was actually invited to be a keynote speaker for KubeCon Japan, which got me so excited. And I reached out to program committee for KubeCon China and asked, can I also have a keynote for KubeCon China? So thankfully, they will graciously allow me and put me on the agenda, which gives me the courage to, make the trip actually happen. So that was super cool to actually visit Asian. For a long time, I haven't been to Asian since COVID. So that was very cool. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much in North America and Europe, which has a lot of places you
Oh
can
yeah.
visit already. Yeah.
I mean, Hong Kong and Japan are on my bucket list, right? So much history, so much culture, right? Like they're
Yeah.
great, amazing places
Food is
to visit.
amazing.
Oh yeah, right. So much going on there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
so go on.
no, I was just saying when you visit Asia, hopefully you'll be able to stay a little bit longer than at least a week, and hopefully longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, totally. Um, so much to see out there. But what's got you excited in tech at the moment? What's the thing that you're looking at and you're like, I'm really interested in that. That like because we all do our day jobs, right? We all have our main projects, but there's always that project on the side, right? That you're tinkering with or you're learning about. So what is it for you?
Yeah, right now it's learning everything in the AI space. I'm not particularly interested in large language model because I'm hoping large language model would just be like a commodity for everybody, right? So I have access to large language model, whether it's on my machine or somewhere in the cloud, and I can use it efficiently. So I'm really interested in what's building on top of large language model. The agentic AI, I think it's like taking the storm for everybody in the AI space this year, right? I'm very interested in like what are the interesting agents we can build to solve real problems we have, and how can we empower the next cloud native or the next X users for all the different community to be able to having an easy onboarding and operation experience than we had with cloud native, for instance, right? As a cloud native user, I had to navigate the complex landscape. I had to read numerous documentation, GitHub URL. What if we provide that conversation experience to our next generation of cloud native user? What if we can scale our users beyond the current 10 million users very easily using AI agents? I think that's what's excited me. And I feel like there's so much to learn out there, right? There's like so many specs for MCP, there's specs for A2A, there's SDK out there, there's development kit for agent, there's so many agent framework out there. There's just so much to learn. It's fascinating to see what people talk about them on social media and, what are the business idea people can build on top of that. So we're in a very interesting space right now. It reminds me of Kubernetes container orchestration 10 years ago when there was a lot of uncertainty. We see changes coming, right? So this is an interesting space right now.
Yeah, the container wars, as I like to call them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Kubernetes prevailed, right? But it's the same with like, standardization. Like to your point, MCP. Yeah, I'm hoping some security guys get their hands around that at the moment, or security girls, sorry, get their hands around that and give it some love, right? And make sure that's secure. But like, I've got big hope for that, right? Like, we're starting to see standardization in terms of the AI technologies out there. So, no, it is pretty exciting time to be making software, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's fascinating. Regarding MCP particularly, I'm hoping they could show a line of, hey, this is in scope as far as security for MCP, and this is out of scope, and maybe delegate to somebody else to in charge, right? Because as developer, the more we add to the MCP spec, the more complexity we're going to build into the spec for people who implement the spec, will be a lot of people writing MCP servers, right?
Sometimes it's better to start off small and make it, improve the quality or the adoption of something, and then start expanding the scope. And the same happened with Kubernetes, right? If we think about that
Yeah,
back in the days, there's lessons to be learned there. So
yeah,
I've got a couple of, as I'm keeping an eye on the time here during our
yeah.
interview, there's a couple of questions I like to ask towards the end for our guests. What are the top 3 skills people should be focusing on for the next 12 months? Or they could be lifelong skills, right? Like careers long skills, but what are your top 3 skills that people should focus on?
I think one of the most important skill, in my opinion, is certainly build connections. To me, that's super, super interesting. Have other people think about you when there's opportunities, and having the comfortability to be able to reach out. So that's number one thing. I think it's super important. The number two thing, I think, just be very, very adaptable. I look at my career and my history. I feel like I'm a person, maybe I'm not overthinking. I try to think about things a little bit naively sometimes, but I'm a super adaptive person. Like I adapt moving from an Asian country to United States. I adapt from a big company to a small startup company. I'm just a very super adaptable person. I think that's just very, very important in any industry, that you can adapt fast and learn fast. Be willing to learn. I think those are super important characteristics to be successful.
No, it's especially in tech, you need to be adaptable.
Yeah.
It's so fluid. Um, that's something that I've experienced working at a big organization is the rate of change, right? To adapt to business needs, right?
Yeah.
That's been a lesson, right? So no, that was some sound advice. So my final question, and I ask, depending on who is on, right? Um, what is your favorite operating system of all time? It's a bit of a nerdy question, Lynn, but like I love to know. It's normally where the tech origin story hits really hard because they always talk about, folks talk about, well, the first computer that I used or wherever it may be. But yeah, what's your favorite operating system of all time?
Okay, I might start a war with you on this. I
Oh,
would say
please.
my favorite one is the iOS. I'm a big fan of Apple and Mac, so the yeah, the operating system that my Mac provides, I feel like it just wins me over the UX and everything. So
I look, I'm a Mac person as well, right?
okay.
So I've used. It's like I have to defend myself
Well, you work
constantly.
at a Microsoft.
I
That's
know,
what I
right? No,
was worried.
we love everybody, right? That's the standard line. But it's I've been using Windows for over 3 decades. But like I got the like I don't know about you, but you get the
No, I believe
iPhone.
you. I
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
used
you get the
Windows for
iPhone, you get the
15 years
iPhone,
too,
and
but
then
yeah,
you need, but yeah, everyone's got their own preference. But yeah, Mac OS is for me, it's more like I just want the decisions made for me, right? If I
yeah,
start tinkering with things, I end up breaking it, right? So, but yeah, no, that's great. But yeah, Mac OS, it's been a stalwart, right, in everyone's life. But yeah, so
yeah.
Lynn, where can folks follow you online? Where's the
Um
best place to connect with you?
Yeah, the best place to connect is probably on LinkedIn. If you search my name and look at, there's probably a few of me, but just look somebody who work at Solo, who's a CNCF ambassador and TOC member. You'll see me there. I would love people to reach out just let me know how I can support you or anybody else. Yeah.
It's very nice. Is there any big conferences that you're going to be talking about soon? Are you going to anything that people should maybe look out for you at, or
Oh,
Have you got
yeah, so I will be going to KCD, Washington, DC in September, and definitely KubeCon North America in Atlanta.
that sounds amazing. I'm trying to get to go to KubeCon North America this year.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
It's a hard one. The agenda hasn't been out yet. I know a lot of company you don't get to go unless you are a speaker.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
but I got a free ticket as a CNCF TOC member, and also it's really close to where I live, so I see no reason for me not to go.
yeah, we're trying to do a KCD here in where we live in Canada because like no one's ever done anything like that before. So hopefully we can try and get you to come out and speak at our
I would love
KCD.
to. I'd love to travel to Canada. Yeah. So where are you based in Canada?
So we're in a look. I'm going to turn into the tourist hat now, but like literally the tourism hat. We live in Western Canada, near, the Rocky Mountains, so it's absolutely breathtaking the scenery here.
Cool.
So, I whenever I get anybody to come out and speak, it's a very easy win. I just send them a picture of the mountains and the lakes, and they're like, I'm booking the tickets now, right? Like I'm on the way. So yeah,
That's amazing. You're so lucky living a vacation spot.
yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of tourism. I'm gonna be quite honest, but yeah, we're very fortunate where we are. Very fortunate. But yeah,
Awesome.
it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Lynn. I've loved learning about your origin story, what you've done as a career, and all the amazing work that you're doing in the open source community, right? And how you're rocking it at solo.io. But yeah,
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. It's been fun chatting with you.
not a problem. Not a problem. But yeah, thanks to everyone listening in. Again, we'll catch you on the next one. And goodbye for now.